This episode is brought to you by the War for the Tower podcast, the Shattered Worlds RPG podcast, and the arts and interview show Everything is Awesome, all of which are hosted or co-hosted by friend of the show Jeff Richardson. Search for them on your podcatcher of choice and tell them Unspoiled sent you. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV, bringing you the greatest hits from 99? I actually don't know when Clash of Kings was written. I should have looked that up. Call in with the date now. In this episode, Rashawn and I are covering A Clash of Kings, Prologue and Chapter 1. In these chapters, we meet Stannis, who is about what we knew Stannis would be like. And Arya begins her journey back up north to the Wall. Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. It was 1999, by the way.
Ooh, shit, was it? I guess.
It was, yeah, good guess.
That was actually, like, if I had really had time to think about it, I wouldn't have guessed that because I'd have assumed it was, like, a decade between. I'm kind of impressed that he was, like, that close together with the first and second book. I did not expect that. Okay.
That's how he got us all fooled.
Yeah, a little bit. All right, so coming at this from the show watcher perspective, what did you think of this prologue? Both the intro to Stannis and being in the, like, Crescen's POV.
I love this prologue for the backstory with Stannis. You know, his name is dropped a couple of times in the first book, but we don't ever really meet him. Mm-hmm. And meeting him through Crescen's eyes, who is someone who apparently has known Stannis his whole life.
Yeah.
He has such tenderness and compassion when he talks about Stannis.
I know.
Which is such a change from the show, because there wasn't anybody on the show that ever had anything like, you know, sympathetic, really.
That's kind of true, yeah.
To say about him, you know, even like this, there's descriptions of him being like not knowing or understanding humor any more than he understands like mocking, you know, that he never learned how to laugh, just that he was like a very stern child, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very
really
literal.
Yeah, very just you know, so rigid. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like, you know, that's something that he was always like. You know, I think I felt like when I was watching the show that this was something he had got turned into. And it's neat to read that, like, no, this is who he is.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess I never really, because I came into it as a book reader, so I don't have any idea what I would have thought if I would have also been like, he got turned into this because of everything that happened. But that's an interesting perspective, huh? Okay.
And I think it's just because when you think about Stannis in relation to Renly and Robert, from the show not knowing really anything about Stannis, or any of them really past, you know, the big points. Mm-hmm. So you also find out that Renly was always Renly.
Yeah, yes.
There's not a lot of talk about Robert that sticks out in my head from this prologue, and it might just be because I already have like a fully formed idea of what I think and who I think Robert was.
Yeah.
So your brain can kind of just be like, blah, over this part. But the parts where he's remembering them as children, really stuck out to me when he's talking about Renly and Stannis, because I didn't get to know that much about them from the show.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I just find it interesting to read from Crescent's perspective as an extra, like, this is the pattern with most of the prologues, is that you're in the POV of somebody that you don't ever get to see their POV again. It's just a little, like, taste of an outsider's view of a character that you later get to know from inside their head. And I always find that really fascinating, you know. I am into a brief outside perspective, because sometimes you'll find out that people who are outside the situation view a different character in a way that you never expected. There's, you know, there's a character in Cradle who is very polite and in many ways extremely insecure, but he evidently always wears an expression like he's looking for a fucking fight, and he is a very big dude. And so whenever you're in an outside POV, they're just like low-key terrified of him, but he has no idea. And I was like very tickled by that when I first read an outside POV, because it wasn't until a much later book. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, people are scared of him, but he's such a little sweet baby. But yeah, with Crescent, him having the affection that he does makes this so much worse in a way, because he feels so betrayed by the way he gets treated here. Yeah, yeah. And it's like it's fucking shitty.
Yeah. And it's also, I love that before we get into like the really shitty betrayal that, you know, it ends on, when it opens, Crescent is feeling very betrayed by his body and his age.
Yeah.
You know, like he has suffered, I guess, a stroke, and he broke his hip, and it was to the point where they had brought in his replacement. Mm-hmm. And he is not even dead yet, you know. Yep. So for it to start with him struggling with that internally, and then for it to end with this very public sort of humiliation, it just is just like, you know, it's rough.
Yeah, I especially feeling like Stannis is so unaware of how like unlovable he is that he's killing a person. He's not killing, but he's like emotionally killing.
Yes. It's a fucking massacre.
Yeah. Like one of the few people in his world that actually does love and care about him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's just this like irony to that is mean-spirited. I hate it.
There's some good like background about what happened after the war and how Stannis ends up at Dragonstone. And I knew from the show that there had been a siege and that Stannis had, you know, withstood it. And I think there's even references to, like, maybe eating rats and shit that made it into the show.
Yeah.
But either... Most likely, I wasn't paying attention to the show to the point where I understood that where Renly was, what was it? Is it Storm's End? Storm's End? Is, I guess, Stannis seems to think that is where he should be. Like, that is rightfully his. And that he just got stuck defending this pretty gloomy, unpleasant, difficult to reach place that no one really seems to want to come visit, and he feels a way about that. Like it's what is it when people who feel like they are suffering indignity after indignity, right? Like that kind of that kind of thing, and it lends that sort of bitterness lends itself to someone with his type of personality, you know? I mean, you can be rigid, which has a very negative connotation, but you can be structured, you know, and not be awful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Stannis, that did not work out that way for him.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because, like, when you were saying that you thought that this was something he got turned into, then his bitterness might feel more like, well, you could have not been such an asshole. But it sounds like this is just how he is. He's just always been this person, and it's unfortunately simply not very likable a person. And there's not a whole lot you can do about just, like, your personality. Like, I feel bad for him in a way. Especially since it comes super easily to Renly to be likable. You know?
And I really wish that my brain hadn't, like, completely erased Robert from his prologue. Do we hear about what Robert was like as a child?
He doesn't really talk about Robert. He talks about Renly and Stannis. I feel like maybe because they were the two younger brothers,
Robert got sent away too.
Did he? Where did he get sent?
Robert was with the Eyrie with Aaron.
Right, you're right.
With Ned, right?
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
So also, I don't know if I knew, and if I was reading this right, the timing got a little wonky, but when he's telling the story, oh my God, you guys, Patchface, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
None of that made it into the show. What is happening?
So, okay, this is the shit I'm talking about when I say that there's, like, weird extra shit in the books that, like, I get why it was cut. I really get it. But also, it adds a particular fucked up flavor to everything that just... It changes everything.
And you guys know, generally, I prefer to read than to listen, but I listened to the prologue on the audiobook. So, and I haven't listened since maybe the first couple of chapters of Game of Thrones. So I had some distance between our lovely narrator. This was a terrible choice to pick this to listen to. Because he's doing this voice, and the clanging of the bells, and it's in the sing-songy way. It's a lot, you guys.
Yep. I know. Oh. What? I don't like it.
And at some point, which I guess is the whole point, his little nonsensical poems got really ominous towards the end.
The shadows come to dance, my lord, dance, my lord, dance, my lord. The shadows come to say, my lord. Okay. And evidently, Patchface wasn't always like that.
Well, this is fascinating, right? And what made me think of Patchface is because what I was originally going to say is, I guess their parents died in the shipwreck. Stannis and Roberts. And I think I had asked at one point if we knew, because I think I was trying to figure out why Robert ended up at the Vale in the first place, trying to figure out what happened with his parents. But they were on this, like, adventure to these other lands. They find this performer who is so remarkable that they purchase him right on the spot. With plans to bring him home because he's entertaining and he's clever and speaks like 4 languages, you know. And then this horrible wreck happens. The parents friggin' die. And they find this body 3 days later on the beach. And it's him, and he's not dead. However, he is nothing like what we thought was coming. And there's a weird little throwaway line where it's like, I'm pretty sure it's just a metaphor where it's something like, you know, we don't even know if he's the same person.
Oh, right,
you know?
yeah. They just have to assume based on what they were told.
But and then he's got this very distinctive tattooing on his face that also helps tell us who he is.
Oh, thank you. I did not remember that at all.
But it's wild. And what does Crescent tell us when he's telling the story that someone, I don't know if it was Crescent or someone else, thought that the kind thing to do would have been to just like let him die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Crescent is the one who saved him.
Yeah, I think he is, and that he's sort of like, but like if he died right now, I'm not gonna be that sad over it.
Yeah, he's like, I won't let them kill him, but if he doesn't make it, then what can you do?
Yeah, it's pretty much the only person who can stand this dude is the little girl, Shireen. And there's something even sadder about that, since she's so alone, that this is her one companion, and it's like he's thinking about, God, look at the three of us, though, because he's a maester that nobody takes seriously anymore.
Yeah, they are a pitiful gathering of misfits that are like. Someone says at one point just how gloomy it is there, and I think because somebody is trying to convince the wife. What's her name? Elise?
Lysa.
Lysa? No.
Lysa Arryn?
No. Stannis' wife.
Stannis' wife. I always think of her as looking like Lysa, and I feel like the actresses they got look similar enough to each other, and that got me even further confused. Oh my God. I don't remember his wife's name. Let me look at this. Stannis.
Elise or Elisa or
Maybe you're right. Maybe it is Elise. Celise. Thank you, Google.
What was my point going to be, though? Oh, somebody's trying to convince her to let Shireen go and be warded somewhere.
Right.
Right? Where there's like other children and life and light. Because this place is just so fucking awful for a young girl to be growing up in alone. And the mom is just like, absolutely not. And Shireen is just the saddest little thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. She has the grayscale on her face.
Excuse me.
She has the grayscale on her face, which they did have in the show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like there's a sort of an aside, or like a kind of, I'm trying to think of the word for it. Like, it's one of those things that's mentioned sort of offhand, but it's made into more of a thing in the show, where Crescent talks about how Stannis waited for sons that never came. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And in the show, they have Celise with her miscarriage, like, display case. Do you remember that?
Oh,
the jars with the fetuses in them?
Oh, that's right.
I don't know what possessed them to do that. I think they just wanted to make her seem even crazier.
Yeah, because, oh, Jesus Christ, I've forgotten all about that.
Yeah. I just didn't feel like that was necessary. I don't know.
That's really, really gross, and not just like for what it looks like
right,
in the decision to do it, but also the way that changes the bit around of that story, where it's him lamenting these not ever having a boy, you know,
right? But
she's the one with the the weirdo babies in jars, you know, like it becomes not his burden but hers. Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, in that era, I guess it would be, because that's women's one job. The one thing that they're allowed is to, like, get married and then pump out babies.
Boys.
You know? Yeah, it really should be, but, it's, I don't know. It's just, I didn't like it. It's one of those things that I feel like they were trying to take a shortcut in telling her story about what she's like, and I just didn't think it was really necessary. There's enough going on with a fucking red woman that we already get the sense that she's not okay. We don't need to do that.
This description of Selyse, though, makes her sound like she was built for Stannis. You know? But I'm curious because I don't know anything about her. Like, did she come to him this cold and sort of detached? Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
guys.
I feel bad. You have water?
I do, but I tried it and it just made it worse. Yeah, that happens sometimes where it's not nearly as helpful as you think it's going to be.
That shit happens to me when I'm doing my, like, solo episodes, and it's just excruciating when it happens. And there's nobody else to, like, talk while you're trying to clear your throat or drink water. You just have to hold everybody up.
Like we're doing right now.
Indeed. I was trying to buy you a moment so that you could sip some water and try to, you know.
I appreciate your assistance there.
So, okay. We have to go back to Patchface, though, please.
Okay.
Because he's a fucking weirdo.
Yes.
And this is the kind of weirdness you will see a lot more of than they showed in the show. You aren't. I promise you aren't. Like, this specific kind of... It's a combination of... That's just fucked up. That's just fucked up. With... What the fuck happened? Something's going on. Is that, like... Is there magic? Did something possess them? Are they okay? Like, that kind of thing. And, it's part of, like, the background noise of the series is there's these big main conflicts going on, but also we all want to know what the fuck happened to Patchface, man. Please, you know, and we would like some closure there. And there's some wild theories out there.
There's a moment he says something like, "Under the sea, the fish eat you."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some theories that people have about maybe Patchface met the drowned god. Like, and that changed everything about him or, like, broke his mind somehow. Basically just that whatever he underwent, the trauma of it isn't just having nearly drowned. A lot of people think something else happened.
I just was out here being all basic, like he must have hit his head.
Well, this is it. It could very well be. That's all it is. But because this world is so strange and unpredictable sometimes, it could also be that George R. R. Martin will be like, he's a secret Targaryen. You know, like in book 8. And we'll be like, oh, okay, sure. So, who knows? But that's the shit that I'm very excited about because there's so much more like that, and I can't wait to see your reaction. And especially, there are some characters that are big characters in the show that have this sort of energy, and they just made them so basic for the show. And it's such a bummer. There was a lot to be done there that you could have really gone crazy with, and they just didn't. Which, like, to a degree, okay, you're trying to do a show that feels like it's grounded in some sort of reality, and making a person basically become an anime character might feel like it's not in tone with everything else. But I'm interested. I would have liked to see them try, at least. So what I'm saying is, we needed Patchface on the show. I just feel like he would have added a really sinister undertone to every scene he was in that would be, like, somehow more effective than the attempt at being sinister the Red Woman made in scenes she was in. Mm-hmm. Because I could never really be that intimidated by her. She just didn't have the kind of presence that worried me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That actress? Mm-hmm. I don't know. She just didn't do that for me. I would be interested to hear y'all's, impressions, because everybody has a different reaction to actors. It's a very subjective thing. And, I mean, she's certainly beautiful, but it's not, she doesn't have the kind of, like, commanding vibe to me.
I enjoyed the actress, but to what you're talking about, I never thought that she was particularly menacing. The best I could get from her was that not that she has powers in any kind of way that can, like, do anything, but that she just represents a very other kind of thing. And that otherness is shrouded in mystery, and people don't understand it. And it's that unknownness, if that's not really a word, that mostly, came from her, I thought, It was like people were being like, constantly, oh, this chick's weird. She's not from around here.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
As opposed to being like, the fuck is she getting ready to do?
Okay, so Patchface has been covered. Let's now talk about first of all, there's a huge fucking comet.
I was just about to bring that up. I love this tie-in that, my assumption is it's the same comet that Dany sees, right? This is all around the same time?
I believe so, yes.
I like the idea of that tying these very separate stories and just kind of giving us a quick, reminder that this is going to sound so corny, but, that they're all, like, existing at the same time in, for all intents and purposes, the same place,
Right, yes.
Like, they're not necessarily all in Westeros, but they're all here on this planet and within close enough that they can all look up and see the same thing. So it's just a reminder of, like, what's happening over here will eventually impact what's happening over there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also, it can be really disorienting what is happening when you jump around from place to place so much. So it sort of helps tie the timeline to get, like, tie it down a bit.
Right, yeah.
Although a comet can last in the sky for a while, how long can a comet last?
Girl, who are you asking?
I'm going to just Google how long can a comet last.
I guess, considering how long it takes for us to see something in the sky, isn't that shit like millions of years ago and we're just still seeing it? Or I'm thinking of stars. Maybe I'm thinking of stars.
Oh, it's talking about, like, the overall lifespan of a comet. So that's not what I mean. Halley's Comet is 10,000 years old?
God damn.
What?
You sound outraged.
That's insanity. Okay, I'm out because that's just too much for my poor brain.
We just heard you break your brain right in the middle of the podcast.
Oh, God, I can't. Let's see. Comets begin to fall apart once they come close enough to be seen. And they must eventually vanish from sight, often in less than 1 million years. Oh my God, that's not what I meant. I'm trying to find out how long a comet can show up in the sky.
How long is a comet visible?
Visible. How long is a comet? Thank you. Christ, I'm over here having an existential crisis over this fucking question. See, no. Comet Neowise is now racing toward the outer solar system and will not be visible from Earth for at least 6,800 years.
That's the opposite of what you asked.
This isn't what I was wanting to know.
Tweet Neil, what's his name?
Neowise.
No, the astrophysicist, Neil Tyson.
Oh, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Ew, I'm not talking to him.
You don't want to... Oh, that's right.
He's going to be so condescending. Just give me some, 12-paragraph answer that doesn't even fucking answer the question, actually. You know that's true.
I do know it's true.
Here we go. Thank you. The last naked eye observations were reported in December 1997, which meant that the comet had remained visible without aid for 569 days, or about 18 and a half months. The previous record had been set by the Great Comet of 1811, which was visible to the naked eye for 9 months. Wow, that's a long time. Cool. So maybe this doesn't tie down the timeline as much as I thought.
But it's still helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Especially since, from her perspective and from Crescent's perspective, it's the first time they're looking at it, or at least it's only just appeared recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, okay. This whole thing is, like, there's such a... What's the word here? Ominous sort of symbolism to
it.
Portent. There you go. And he's sitting there thinking about, whether the gargoyles on the castle has ever seen a comet like this. And then he's like, what the fuck? God, I'm getting so old. I'm over here I wonder what these fucking gargoyles have seen. And it's such a shame because later on, Stannis says something like, he's old, his mind wanders. And I'm look, God. It's very insulting, but that's literally what happened, immediately when we met you. Can't even be that mad. The comet burned even by day now, while pale gray steam rose from the hot vents of Dragonmont behind the castle. And yestermorn, a white raven had brought word from the citadel itself. Word long expected, but no less fearful for all that. Word of summer's end. Omens all, too many to deny. What does it all mean? He wanted to cry.
Lots of terrible things are on the horizon. And I feel like they already low-key know this.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's
you know
be
how
honest.
When has a red comet in the sky ever been a good sign?
That's a fair point. I don't like it, but I respect it. So, yeah, this is when he finds out Pylos, who is his assistant, sort of.
His low-key replacement.
Oh, yeah, right. True. He comes and tells him that Shireen is here, and she's got... Fucking Patchface has this helm that's a tin bucket with a rack of deer antlers strapped to the crown, and the antlers are hung all over with cowbells.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So every step he takes...
It's a very Dobby kind of energy.
Ooh. Ooh, I do not like that, but you're not wrong. It's like Dobby, but just really... Dobby's already uncomfortable, but there's at least an edge of this is meant to be fun. Mm-hmm, and Dobby is not meant to be, or Patchface is not really meant to be. He's meant to be fun in the way that a doll in a horror movie is meant to be cute. It's not. It's meant to be scary, but you have to pretend that it's cute to excuse that a child would like it.
Yeah.
Which
makes children very suspicious to me, but...
Honestly. You gotta see
but
how
that's a different
conversation. Right? I swear to God, it doesn't matter, though. I just find dolls creepy in general. There's not a doll that I've seen that I'm like, oh, I like that doll. I just... I don't think I'm here for dolls, period.
Yeah, I went through a phase, but it was short-lived.
Okay, so, yeah, he's talking to Shireen. She says that she had bad dreams that the dragons were coming to eat her. And Maester Crescent says something about how she has always had nightmares. And I kind of wonder if this is symbolic. If she's having, prophetic dreams, her dream that the dragons are coming to eat her, and Daenerys has just decided oh, I'm coming, bitches.
Right. Yeah, I thought about that too, and I wasn't sure if we're supposed to suspect that, and also, again, as much as I hate to say it, there are bits and pieces of the show that I do manage to somehow remember, and I don't believe that they did anything quite like that with her character. If the book is going there, that makes me suddenly really afraid for her in a different way than I was on the show. And I don't know. I feel like the danger is still coming from the Red Woman. If Shireen had displayed any type of otherworldly kind of power in any regard, I feel like she would just come down on her really hard really quickly.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But there's also like this idea that things can happen sort of organically, where like so there'll be a big shift, and we'll all feel it in different ways. Mm-hmm. You know, whether you're like jokingly making jokes about like Mercury in retrograde or whatever. But you know, there are times when such a big thing happens that it kind of vibrates with us all on different levels. And I think dreams would be a really appropriate thing for a child, especially something as fantastical as being afraid that dragons were coming.
Yeah. It's so vague that it's not enough to be like, oh, I had a dream, and you're just like, guys, listen to her. She's saying a thing that's going to happen. Why is nobody paying attention? Because, you know, it's just, dragons were coming to eat me. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah,
that's a child's nightmare.
I was going to say, like, what little kid doesn't have that nightmare?
Yeah.
I have to put a quick shout out to Renly's Rainbow Guard.
Oh my god, I know. There's a bit of trolling there, George. I don't know.
Is that intentional?
Like, I have to imagine. He does little things like that. Like, if you look in your appendix that you love so much.
I do.
There's a family way back on the Tullys, I think, that are all named after Muppets. Like, there's a Grover Tully and a Kermit Tully.
Oh my god.
I think it's Tully, I think. But yeah, it's he loves to do like little things like that where he's just sort of poking at you, you know. Like, nobody's gonna look at this fucking appendix. I'm just gonna name them fucking Muppet names, and 95% of people will never notice. He's not wrong. Kermit Tully, I'm looking it up. Yeah, yep. Kermit Tully, Lord of River Run, head of House Tully at the end of Dance of Dragons during the reign of Aegon III. Yeah, and Elmo Tully. That's the other one. That's the one I was thinking of. Elmo Tully. What? Elmo was succeeded by his eldest son, Sir Kermit Tully. Oh, God. He can be so annoying. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys, just going all over the place here. She says something about how because he tries to be like, there's nothing to be afraid of, and she says, well, the Red Woman says that it's dragon breath, and he's like, God damn it, this stupid bitch is just ruining everything.
He really does not care for her.
No.
Doesn't trust her, doesn't have any respect for her faith or belief in it, and just thinks she's bad news and she is a bad influence on this family, and spends most of his days just thinking, like, she don't even go here. You know, like, that's...
Pretty much, yeah.
And she has... The other thing, too, about the way this starts is finding out that they got news last night and no one came and got him out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
And he's feeling a particular way about it.
Yep.
And so a lot of the stuff that he's thinking about after Shireen comes up with patch faces, like they got to get downstairs so he can be caught up on whatever this news was. Mm-hmm. And the news was not good.
No.
It is that, I think it's that Renly has declared himself king. Mm-hmm. And, you know, these are the houses that are aligned with him. And Stannis is, he doesn't think it's very funny.
Nobody is on Stannis' side. Nobody is Team Stannis.
Nope. And it is really clear that he is so unlikable that he doesn't really garner support. Yeah. Or empathy from other people. he doesn't inspire great loyalty. Though I will say, on like a very micro level, he seems to, with like the people that are actually around him, like Sir Davis, for example. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't, which is often the case with people like this that just have objectionable personalities. They can be okay one-on-one. With a very small select group, but everything else gets lost in translation to a wider audience.
Yeah.
And they just remain ungettable. Mm-hmm. People just don't get it. So because of that, Stannis is out here and like no one has stood up and said, no, this is wrong. Stannis is rightful heir, not you, Renly. How dare? And Stannis is really, I would say his feelings are hurt, but that doesn't feel right.
It's more like a moral outrage.
I was exactly going to say that's exactly what I was going to say. He cannot believe that none of these raggedy people will stand up and do what's right,
Yep.
And it does this thing, I think it applies to Stannis, where they feel like the reason he can be so morally outraged is because he thinks he has the moral high ground all the time in all the things. You know? So I'm not saying he's necessarily wrong in this moment, but I feel like that's just a general way he gets down, and lives his life.
Probably.
He's just, huh?
I said probably. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. There was like a lot of hooting and hollering outside for some reason.
Fucking people.
People get so excited when their fries come out that window, y'all. Let me tell you.
Listen, I can relate. There's very little to take joy in lately. Let us have our fries. For the love of God.
Let us have our fries. Postcard. But fuck, where was I going with that? Yeah, he feels like he occupies this moral high ground all the time, and nobody likes to be around that. You know? It makes people feel bad about themselves, and people don't like to feel bad about themselves unless, of course, you're me and you do it professionally. Otherwise, no one really likes that feeling. But he's shocked.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's almost like Ned in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But Ned was so much more sort of compassionate with it that despite him being like a little bit too up his own ass about the rules, you liked him because he seemed to like take into account the people around him's feelings, at least. And Stannis doesn't do that.
This is the thing we said earlier, where you can be like rigid and still be likable and not considered an asshole. And Ned is a fantastic example of that. You're absolutely right. And I don't even think that it's because Ned is able to express a certain amount of compassion for people around him. I mean, that like helps that he seems to be loving and affectionate and all. Mm-hmm. But Ned doesn't have, or doesn't carry anyway, that type of bitterness that we talked about that Stannis has. So Ned's moral outrage was just kind of like, how could you insult the realm? And Stannis is like, how could you insult me? You know what I mean? Like a little bit of a different kind of thing there.
Yeah, there's almost like with Stannis, he looked like Ned sees people do that sort of thing. Like, let's take insulting the realm as the example here. And Ned would be like, well, but it's your duty. You're supposed to, support and be good. And I feel like Stannis would be like, where is your self-respect? I am disgusted. I thought you had some pride, that you gave a shit like I give many shits, and you stand before me with this attitude. There's just this I can't comprehend how you don't have this as a priority. I am the next born son what the fuck?
Right?
You know, like, there's literally not supposed to be any question of any kind.
Why is this even up for discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how dare? You know what, you guys? I was, like, kind of being shady about Stannis and his self-righteousness and his moral indignation. But the more that we discuss it...
he has a point.
Because I hear myself saying about him when he's thinking, why is this even up for fucking discussion? Mm-hmm. You guys all know how this works. And I have said that multiple times this week. So,
yep.
So,
yeah, I
know.
just like, because, and this is another thing that's like sort of relevant. You find out that, like, well, the rules, like, only really apply when we feel like they apply. And
then you should be outraged when you hear that, right?
Right.
Stannis is outraged.
And I mean, do you think, based on the little you know of book Renly, and now that you've met Stannis, do you think Renly or Stannis would make the better king?
Well, you know, it really depends on what the criteria is, what you think is better, what is more valuable, right?
I'm asking you.
No.
I'm just trying to get you to know. Weasel out of answering my question, that's all.
The things that Renly could do, I think, as far as inspiring sort of, oh my God, I'm about to describe Obama. Like, inspiring hope and, like, youthfulness and, like, a possibility that the future might be a little bit different than what we've been experiencing, you know? And sort of an optimism. I think his allies would be very supportive and loyal to him, and all that stuff is great. I don't know how effective he would be with the actual ruling of the realm. You know what I mean? I just don't know enough about him. Stannis, if you are a law and order type of person...
That's the question.
That just sounded shitty as it sounds. But you know, but there are things, like, if you are into a much more authoritarian, which is a weird thing to say since we're talking about, like, a monarchy, right? We're talking about divine rulers, practically.
Right.
But Stannis is, I would prefer King Renly to King Stannis, I think. I would prefer living in a world, that type of world.
I mean, considering the situation that the Seven Kingdoms is currently in, I would choose Stannis. We're in the midst of, like, a breakout of war.
Yeah.
With the Lannisters just razing the countryside. And I would choose somebody who I know is going to put a stop to that nonsense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That said, the key to putting a stop to that nonsense is often diplomacy, which I do think Renly would be better at. But diplomacy's really comes second to the, like, brutality of putting a stop to it. So
also, you have to consider, like, when we think about who we would rather have, are they bringing the resources that the book says they have to bear? Because if Stannis only shows up with Stannis, you know, then no, he's not going to be a good king because he's not going to win shit. You know what I mean? But if it's Stannis with, say, all the support he would need to actually rule, then okay, that's a different conversation.
It's interesting because what Davos says to Crescent when they meet in the hallway.
I was so happy to see him.
I know, right?
Throw that out there. Yeah.
I don't like his voice in the audiobook, though.
I don't care for it.
I just don't care for it at all. But Davos says, basically, they don't love him. They won't rise for him. And no, Crescent thought, nor will they ever. He is strong, able, just past the point of wisdom. Yet it is not enough. It has never been enough.
That's gotta burn.
Oh, that's
because Stannis knows it. Stannis knows it.
Yep. And he can't comprehend it.
And it's, it seems wrong, and I guess it is wrong, but it is the reality. I mean, it's like that for all of us, Mm-hmm. It's never just about those things. There's always some other shit working.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's shit that we don't have really any real control over, that we can't change for, one way or the other. And you can't, fight it and beat it. It just fucking is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really, Stannis must be just so unlikable for everybody to set him aside that easily, It really, yikes.
Too, I wonder how much of this is when where the people aren't willing to risk anything to stand with him, and it feels very, very personal from each party, mm-hmm. because it's taken very personally. But we don't know for real what all goes into the people's decisions. Maybe they are having the same conversation me and you just did, and they're just like, you know what, Stannis? I don't know. It doesn't look like he has a good shot,
Yeah, true.
And on top of not having a great shot, I don't even really like that motherfucker. So,
yeah.
I mean, but the way we're receiving the information, it seems very, very specific and personal to Stannis because he's so unlikable. But, that's how it's going to read because that's, who we're reading it through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just... Because, like I said, in the current climate, I would pick Stannis. He is legally, according to everything that people supposedly give a shit about in this universe, the one who should be in line. And there is a part of me that is like, what the fuck, guys?
Oh, let me interrupt you and ask you about that. I'm so glad you brought that up.
What?
This race for this clash of kings, as it were. Right, all these people, we know that Joffrey isn't Robert's true-born heir, right? Right. And that information seems to have made its way into the wind. Mm-hmm. That all these, suddenly Renly has a claim, Stannis has a claim. But officially, whatever that means in Westeros, Joffrey is still considered the true-born heir, right?
Right.
And is it common knowledge that none of those kids are Roberts at this point in the story?
I don't know at this point. I really don't.
All right.
I couldn't say. And
I
won't.
Just all right, just checking it real quick. Okay, all right, back to this book though.
Okay, so yeah, they chat about this and Crescent's like, so you can't make him believe in hope, and Davos is like, I could lie. I'm not doing that though. And we get a little insight into what happened with Davos, that he was the one who was able to smuggle in food during this incredibly long siege that almost starved them all to death, and was punished for smuggling by having the ends of his fingers cut off on one hand, but was rewarded with lands and titles. And just what a weird combo that is.
Yeah, and he really respects it. Stannis is the one who does it. Davos is like, okay, you can take these fingers, but it has to be you. Mm-hmm. And there's even mention that Stannis picked a particular type of, I think it was a butcher's cleaver or something.
Yeah.
To make it as clean as possible, so he doesn't completely, disfigure. Well, I guess it's kind of disfigured, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a weird relationship, and the respect between the two of them is so unlikely considering.
Yeah, it's like that kind of trope that you see a lot where it's two dudes hate each other, but then they get in a fist fight and now they're friends. Mm-hmm. There's a sort of energy there that I feel like I've seen before.
I think it's Davos seems like he's not one of the few people, because we had a whole ass chapter with Crescent talking, but the fact that he agrees to what Stannis says, both the punishment and the reward, shows that Davos gets Stannis on some weird level. Like this thing that Stannis decides makes sense to Davos. Like, you know what? That's actually very fair.
True.
Where I think a different kind of person, like, you could say, well, yeah, anybody would, rather lose 3 fingers and blah, 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 blah. But Davos doesn't just take the land and the title and, like, disappear. He stays and becomes, like, I keep making all these hand references, guys.
I know. I can hear you, like, edging away from your mic. You gotta come back. Come back. As basically as Stannis' right-hand man, which I don't think would have happened if it had been any other person. It's right-hand man.
Well, that's what I said when I said I keep making all these hand references.
I thought you said gestures, like you were, like, moving around over there, because that's what I was talking about with, like, your voice getting
I
softer.
said, like, disfigured and disfingered and then right-hand man.
Disfingered. Ma'am. That feels not all right. Let's see. If he takes this meager host to King's Landing, it will be only to die. He does not have the numbers. I told him as much, but you know his pride. My fingers will grow back before that man bends to sense. And finally, we get, like, a physical description of him. And I love this. Broad of shoulder and sinewy of limb, with a tightness to his face and flesh that spoke of leather cured in the sun until it was as tough as steel. Hard was the word men used when they spoke of Stannis, and hard he was. Though he was not yet 35, only a fringe of thin black hair remained on his head, circling behind his ears like the shadow of a crown. His brother, the late King Robert, had grown a beard in his final years. Maester Crescent had never seen it, but they said it was a wild thing, thick and fierce. As if in answer, Stannis kept his own whiskers cropped tight and short. They lay like a blue-black shadow across his square jaw and the bony hollows of his cheeks. His eyes were open wounds beneath his heavy brows, a blue as dark as the sea by night. His mouth would have given despair to even the drollest of fools. It was a mouth made for frowns and scowls and sharply worded commands, all thin, pale lips and clenched muscles, a mouth that had forgotten how to smile and had never known how to laugh.
Jesus Christ, is that good?
Sometimes when the world grew very still and silent of a night, Maester Crescent fancied he could hear Lord Stannis grinding his teeth half a castle away. Oh, I love that. I love it so much.
That's really, really good.
That's some writing, baby.
It is. It is. Because goddamn, that is a really full, robust picture. And it is... I mean, there's nothing likable about any of it. Like, there's not... The whole passage is just relentlessly negative.
Yep.
Like, every descriptor... Jesus Christmas. The description of his wife is similar. It's shorter.
Yeah.
But it's very similar.
Yeah, his wife, man. Ugh. She is,
Unfortunate ears.
Unfortunate ears. I forgot about that. I'm trying to find the spot where she comes in. Oh my God, I forgot about this. If you help the boy avenge his father's murder, why should I avenge Eddard Stark? Robert loved him as a brother. How often did I hear that? I was his brother, not Ned Stark. And I was like, shit, again,
Feelings.
like, I get it. Did Robert thank me for the, siege? No, he thanked Stark. I built a fleet, took Dragonstone. Did he shake my hand and say, well done, brother, whatever should I do without you? No, he blamed me for letting Willem Darry steal away Viserys and the babe, as if I could have stopped it.
And then, when Aaron dies, doesn't ask Stannis to be hand, but goes all the way up to Winterfell to get hand. Just like insult after insult after insult. Mm-hmm. You know, but when you are Stannis, everything is an insult to you. So it's not that he doesn't have, like, legit grievances here, you know, but I feel like any story he told you...
What are you doing?
Any story he told you would end up with him like that. You know, like, he's the guy that goes to the fucking coffee shop and comes out with how, like, you know, the coffee wasn't what he ordered and everybody was terrible and how dare.
Poor Stannis. I don't know if I agree with you.
That's okay.
No, I'm just examining it, you know? I'm just curious because, like, I feel like if he hadn't been surrounded by such charismatic brothers, that maybe he wouldn't have been so totally overshadowed and he would have been allowed to, like, explore his capabilities. But he wound up with, like, Renly, who evidently people really like, and Robert, who was just a fucking, like, force of nature, you know? And
I'm curious what you mean about his capabilities. Like,
like, for example, you know, he wasn't granted a position as a hand, and he feels like he should have been the one in line for that. Would he make a good hand? I have no idea. I really can't decide. I just, like, feel like he hasn't gotten a chance to actually prove himself in a major way, but we see all of these, like, minor victories on behalf of his brother that he accomplished, so evidently he's got, like, he is competent, you know? He stuck through a fucking siege that most people would have cracked under, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was asking, because I feel like we get to see just how capable Stannis is, through these little, like, you know, these, the siege and taking Dragonstone, and he was on the council. What was he, Master of Ships? Was that his thing?
I don't remember.
Because he wasn't actually there.
I'm going to, Austin sent me some notes again, so I'm trying to see if he mentions it, but I don't know if he says. No, yeah, it doesn't mention. But Master of Ships sounds right to me. That's ringing a bell.
But he's never in King's Landing. Which could... I mean, I don't know why Robert didn't pick him. I'm about to, like, spin off a whole fucking fan fiction. The
sign that you're turning into a really pure book fan, girl.
But I feel like whatever limits have been placed on Stannis are, I'm trying to find a nice way to say, are his fault.
But are they?
No, probably not in real life, you know. But whether we like it or not, your personality can dictate things like opportunities and who wants to be around you and that sort of thing. And no one wants to be around him.
It's brutal. Cold-blooded.
You know? And he, like we said a few minutes ago, he is of the mind that, and he's not 100% wrong, that it should not matter whether you like me or not.
I mean, in a monarchy, it fucking shouldn't.
But clearly it does.
Evidently.
Right?
Yeah. So, and I mean, of course, reminder, this is all predicated on everybody accepting that Robert's kids are not his kids. Which it seems like that's like the going thing for both him and Renly, is those kids are bastards, so it's one of us too. And, you know.
And if that information, like, Ned sent the information out, right? He sent the letter to Stannis. Did he send a letter to Stannis?
I think he did.
He sent a letter to, I guess, to Renly as well.
It's kind of funny that he's just like, why should I fucking help Ned? And I'm like, well, he did, like, tip you off on a major thing right before he died, but okay, sure.
So, I wish I could remember who all he sent letters to, and I feel like it was more than just 2 people.
And the thing is, like, when Renly bails, Renly knows, and he doesn't seem like he's going to keep his mouth shut, so I guess the rumor is just out there. If Renly's, like, openly courting allies, it has to be that most people have heard this. I you know.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? Because otherwise, what is your justification?
So.
How do you get people to, I mean, Rob doesn't have to know or care because his whole thing is, about killing his father. It's a different,
right?
I mean, he's fighting with a different war, basically. All right, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to make sure I try to remember who all knows and how often that gets talked about. I feel like on the show, it was just all over the place all the time.
Yeah.
That I stopped even wondering, like, who knows what. Clearly we're all watching the same show. We all know.
Indeed. Okay, so this is... Crescent goes downstairs. Or, well, he's been downstairs, and this is when Selyse shows up. And... oh, my God. Where is the description? I'm trying to find, because she comes in on, like, this sort of dramatic, like, moment where he says, I don't beg of anyone. I am pleased to hear it, my lord.
Oh, yeah, because Crescent is salty because he didn't hear her sneaking.
Yes.
He's like, in my younger days, I would have heard that coming.
I really enjoy that. I don't know why I find that so funny, but I really do. Here it is. Tall as her husband, thin of body and thin of face, with prominent ears, a sharp nose, and the faintest hint of a mustache on her upper lip. She plucked it daily and cursed it regularly, yet it never failed to return. Her eyes were pale, her mouth stern, her voice a whip. She cracked it now.
Yeah, this is...
Oh, I love it so much. So basically, she is over here egging on the absolute worst impulses that Stannis has.
There's a lot of women in these books that seem to play that role. I'm not ready to name names yet. That was just a feeling that I blurted out of my mouth.
Committed this crime. And she is fully backed by the Red Woman in this, because their position is basically the Red God wants you on the throne, therefore, on the throne you shall be. And all you need to do is fully give yourself over to this God, and it would be fucking fine, but you are so faithless. And just bend already, and you'll be granted everything you need to win.
I cannot remember. I feel like by the time we meet Stannis, he's already kind of going all in with the Red Woman. But I might be forgetting the first, 2 or 3 episodes of season 2.
I feel like you might be right, that it's positioned more like he has taken this religion as a sort of, what's the word I want? Like, almost like pandering?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I'm willing to take your help because, fuck all, no one else is offering me help. So let's see what your fucking God can do. But by the end of the second season, I think we get the Shadow Baby.
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, the show kind of, we meet him already kind of invested in what she claims she can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and as of right now, he is just not interested. Every time his wife brings it up, he is like, I am about to smack you one. To the moon, Alice. Just keep talking about this fucking God. I'm so sick of it. And yeah, I just really sort of like the the fact that he's this resistant, because she's just so insufferable. Any zealot, I immediately am like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want to read about this. I don't want to have anything to do with any of it.
That is always a good fucking rule to have. It will never go wrong.
It's so tiring, So, after this, Stannis basically, Crescent tries to argue, and Stannis is like, I heard what you had to say, and I'm not listening to you, bye. So Crescent goes back to his rooms, and he keeps thinking about, what am I going to do? This guy is about to fuck up so bad. And finally is like, I just have to fucking kill her. That's just all there is to it. I got to get rid of this bitch. And he has just got some poison and tucks it away into his little sleeve secret area.
I love that they're all these monsters walk around with these giant ass sleeves that they could just have who knows what up there.
Right.
I'm also jealous of the wardrobe.
What is the name of it? Is this the Tears of Lys that he's about to use? The Strangler. The Strangler. Right. A dozen crystals no larger than seeds. They shone like jewels, so purple the maester found himself thinking he had never truly seen the color before. And he takes this with the intent, basically, I am assuming, because of how he initiates this, that he is intending, when he kills her, to also be killed.
It looks like it, yeah.
He's just assuming they're all going to know I poisoned her, so I'm just sort of like willing to sacrifice myself in the midst of this in order to get it done. Which I don't feel like I truly appreciated the first time, that like he knew he was likely going to die tonight and was willing to accept that, but then he dies for no reason, which is just really mean. And he goes and takes a nap, wakes up, goes downstairs, and Patchface is down there singing, and Crescent says something. He stumbles, and Melisandre grabs him before he can fall. We get a hell of a description for her too, but should be noted that even her eyes are red. And she says that, a man like you must look where he steps. And when she says the night is dark and full of terrors, he says only children fear the dark. And she's like, oh, look at this. You're a foolish wise man. And he is a clever fool, because Patchface is singing about the shadows coming to dance. And so she takes Patchface's helm off his head and puts it on Crescent's head. And I was just like...
They just let her do it.
I was disgusted. I really was.
A crown to match your chain. Basically, like, and we all know what those chains mean and how hard they work to get them. And she is basically like, they mean about as much as this fucking helmet that Patchface wears. And it is brutal.
Rude. I can't get over that. I really can't. Like, look, Stannis, do something. What the fuck? So annoyed. And it's interesting because later on, when Crescent sees like that Stannis isn't sticking up for him, he thinks to himself, "This isn't you."
Oh, before
what?
Even that, after he takes the helmet off, he goes to the table to sit down, and the other Maester is sitting in his seat.
Right. Maester Pylo sat in his place. The old man could only stop and stare. You did not wake me. His grace commanded me to let you rest. Pylos had at least the grace to blush.
Yeah.
He told me you were not needed here.
Yeah. And still, he is willing to go through with his plan. Even after seeing it's clear he has been dismissed, and is no longer considered a valued part of this, this council. He's still willing to kill himself if it means taking out Melisandre.
Right.
For these people who just treated him like crap.
Yep. Yeah, and the fact that he says, this isn't you, and that Stannis is willing to, let it pass anyway. It's, I wonder if, because we were talking about how it doesn't seem like he's, on board with the Red Woman. Maybe he is more on board than he appears because he's allowing this sort of disrespect, he's protesting when it's brought up directly, but his actions seem to point to the fact that he's sort of beginning to consider all his options now. Which that sucks. I just hate this for him. I really do.
The way Stannis says, he, when Crescent is watching that everybody has sat down and his seat is filled, Stannis tells him that you're too old and too sick, too confused to be used to me anymore.
Yeah.
And basically Pylos will be taking your job from now on. You can't even climb the steps to the rookery.
Yeah.
Why are you here? But instead he says, I will not have you kill yourself in my service. Which, talk about a turn of phrase. I will not
I didn't even catch that, girl.
In my service.
Fuck, I didn't even catch it. God damn it, George. He will have it. In fact, he will have it very much.
And soon.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, he has to figure out how to, get himself in there enough so that he can get this into her cup. And finally, he decides that he is going to make a toast to her.
Yeah. He begs for a seat at the table. And then when he gets it, I think somebody gives up their seat. Maybe Davos does. And he stands up for the toast. Yeah.
She drinks it, and she knows, man. She looks at him and says, if you wish. And Davos saw him drop something into the cup and tries to stop him, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm doing what needs doing. That's what I'm doing. And she says, it's not too late to spill the wine, Maester. And he says no, and she's like, okay. Yeah. And she drinks most of it, and then hands the rest of it back. And he drinks it, even though he fucking totally knows.
Yep.
And she says, he does have power here, my lord, and fire cleanses. At her throat, the ruby shimmered redly, and he begins to choke. And the cowbells pealed in his antlers, singing, fool, 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 while the red woman looked down on him in pity, the candle flames dancing in her red, red eyes.
Yeah.
End of prologue.
Yep. That's
Ferocious.
What we're dealing with,
folks. So then we go on to Arya. And Arya is not having a great time.
No. She's on this journey north after having her hair hacked off in what turned out to be an extraordinarily painful, few minutes, which I cannot remember what they did on the show and just how choppy and bad her hair looked. But I feel like they did not do it justice compared to this description here. Because this description is much, much more severe than anything I remember seeing.
And leads to the nickname Lumpy Head, which is inspired.
That's how bad that shit is. somebody tries to get too clever and calls her lumpy face later on.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think that's Hot Pie, and Lemmy is like, lumpy head. God, get our insults right. We have to be consistent at least, or else this is all meaningless.
Oh god. So yeah, she is having to hide that she is a girl because that would be extraordinarily dangerous for her to be traveling with this group of this assortment of varying degrees of terribleness.
Yeah.
With like the most terrible ones being kept in this like little locked wagon dealy.
Okay. Can we talk about them? Rorge and Biter?
Yes.
They didn't need to be here at all, Yoren. What are you trying to make happen with those two at the wall?
One of them doesn't have a nose.
Mm-hmm. The other one has teeth filed to points.
Yeah, they're so dangerous you can't trust them to make the trip, yet you're going to take them to the wall and let them, take the oath, and that's going to change everything about them?
Yeah.
Or are they just going to be stew? Because I think they might just be stew.
Ew.
I know, right? It's dark, but that's where my head's at these days, guys. Welcome.
Damn.
Honestly, though, what else are they going to be besides food? What do we need them for? What are they going to do?
That's my question, you know? I can understand the desperation they have, but there comes a point where you're like just actively putting your own people in more danger, I would think.
I guess there is a contingent of what you might call like prison labor, which is a little bit of a distinction from, because at this point the wall has sort of become like a sort of prison, right?
Right.
It's sort of like an alternative to going to jail or dying. So it's a prison of its own kind of making. But I imagine, I don't think we ever saw anything like that, but there's no reason why they couldn't have like men they keep jailed, you know, and they bring them out shackled to do like manual labor type of shit. And then, but I mean, I've seen no evidence that is a thing that happens here. But I can't think of any other reason why you would be in a rush to take these terrible people to where you live.
Right? Yeah. Same. It just, I just don't really like I said, it feels like you're putting your own people at risk here, but
yeah, like you just be better off being short two people.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
For the trouble it's going to, cause to maintain them, and I don't know. But also, it's cool to have a wagon with really terrible people locked in it, and maybe that's the point.
It does add something to the proceedings. That's true.
Maybe that's just it. He wanted to spice up the trip home. That's all. No big deal.
And Yoren, the thing with her hiding that she's a girl, what Yoren says is, like, none of them would hesitate to bring you to the queen for a reward, which suggests that if they find out she's a girl, they're going to know who she is. They're going to, like, figure it out. I'm not entirely confident of that based on the intellect that I have seen displayed here. However, it is too big a risk to take.
Yeah, I figure the majority of the group we're not really meeting because, like, why? So we get to meet the two kids that are tormenting her. We meet who I'm assuming is the Gendry character, who doesn't have a name yet for some reason.
The bull. Yeah,
I didn't care for it, but whatever. And these terrible three guys. But I imagine it's probably, she says it's like 36 people traveling.
Yeah, that's true. So somebody is going to fucking put it together. Yeah,
and
that's
then
fair.
they're probably stopping through little ass towns, and he also tells her there's also the rape. You got to be worried about the rape too.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you don't let them know that you're a girl.
Cool.
Yep.
So Lemmy and Hot Pie are tormenting her, as you put it, and they are trying to, like, get her sword needle from her. And of course, not knowing who she is, they at first try and accuse her of it not being a real sword at all.
Mm-hmm. Or then maybe she stole it.
I keep calling him Lommy, sorry. What?
For some reason, I have been reading it as Lemmy, so Lommy was just suddenly very funny to me, because my first instinct was like, well, that's nonsense. And I looked down at the page and was like, oh shit, no it is.
Yeah, I mean, it is nonsense. You are not wrong. But yeah, so they she's rising to the bait too much because she has a lot of anger, understandably.
True.
And they are so far beneath her in so many ways that being insulted by the likes of them, I'm sure, just fucking chafes.
Yeah.
And eventually Hot Pie starts to come at her and be like, give me your sword. Give it to me. Because Lommy's like, yeah, get her sword. But, get his sword. I dare you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she waits until he gets close, smacks the back of the donkey he's riding with her training sword so that the donkey rears up. He falls off. Mm-hmm. And then she beats the ever-loving shit out of his balls.
She really does. She offers him that practice sword, too.
And he won't take it.
And then, okay, she's like, all right, you don't want it? Okay. And she does. He can't even sit. He has to lie down for the next couple of days. But then, after she beats his ass, she gets taken by urine and beat herself.
Yep. Yoren is just like, seriously? Keep your head down. What the fuck are you doing? He didn't kill your dad. I know you're pissed and it sucks. And you should know that wasn't how it was supposed to happen. They came to me and told me Ned Stark was going to be coming to the Wall. And I was all ready for him. Mm-hmm. And why do you think that I was even at the Great Sept? And then some shit went wrong. And she says Joffrey. And I don't remember if he agrees or if he's just like, who the fuck knows?
She says someone should kill him. And he says, yeah, someone will. But it's not going to be me or you.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, someone will. Don't you worry, kiddo.
I love that answer, too. It's so reassuring. Someone should kill him. Yeah, don't worry, they will. That's the kind of pep talk I'm looking for. Just want to make me feel better. Take a little note. Take a little notey note. This is what I want to hear.
All I'm looking for is somebody to carry out the deaths of all of my enemies. Is that so much to ask, honestly?
They don't even have to do it. Just convince me it will be done. Assure me that it will happen.
I love this. It's a weird kind of inverted positivity.
I'm positive something negative will happen to them.
Oh, God. Remember that line in Dresden Files where he's like, I am not a pessimist, though that can't last. And Thomas just says, ooh, nice.
Oh, good stuff.
All right, so... Oh my God, I forgot that fucking Hot Pie shit his pants.
Oh, that's right, he did.
So embarrassing.
Oh, it's great.
Hot Pie, what are you doing, buddy? Stop it.
So, why do you think he beats her? Is it so that everybody else can hear that she doesn't get treated differently? Is it because he's really trying to get this message across to her of how dangerous it is for her to be getting into fights and shit?
I think so. I'm seeing the thing. You scream now, you scream loud. Yeah, maybe it's meant to be also that if you do the shit, you're getting punished. Whether or not they were taunting you, you don't get to just start fights and then beat the fuck out of somebody because they were bothering you.
Look, hang on.
Yep.
AirPod just flew right out of my ear. It just
These damn
jumped right
things.
out. Jesus Christ, it was like it was trying to escape my life. Which, honestly. But anyway. So yeah, he says,
Well, what I think I can't remember, because I was saying something when that just happened.
Sorry, we were talking about,
that he can't just have people, like, if they're just being annoying, like, getting excused for beating the shit out of somebody. You know?
Yeah,
that's not true. A way to run things.
Yeah.
They're all supposed to be, like, brothers now.
Oh, yeah. She was not here for that. Next time, you take a stick to one of your brothers. It's like, why are you lying in my face?
I love it. Her whole energy here, I'm just like, yeah, I get it, girl.
So, yeah, it does seem to be, like, partially performative and also trying to get her to better control herself. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, I guess beating someone is a way to accomplish that. I guess.
Yeah, you know.
So after that, she goes to sleep and she sees the comet. It ends right back up with that.
The Red Sword, the bull named it. He claimed it looked like a sword, the blade still red hot from the forge. And Arya's like, I see a sword covered in my dad's blood. Yeah. And I was like, oof, Jesus, girl, okay. When at last she slept, she dreamed of home. The King's Road wound its way past Winterfell on its way to the Wall, and Yoren had promised he'd leave her there with no one any wiser about who she'd been. She yearned to see her mother again, and Robb and Bran and Rickon, but it was Jon Snow she thought of most. She wished somehow they could come to the Wall before Winterfell, so Jon might muss up her hair and call her little sister. She'd tell him, I missed you, and he'd say it too at the very same moment, the way they always used to say things together. Aww. She would have liked that. She would have liked that better than anything. And that's the end of that chapter, and it's honestly heart-wrenching. It
really is, you guys. It shouldn't be at this late stage of the game, 10 years after having watched the show and all, but I'll be damned.
So, did you see whose chapter is next?
I did not.
All right, do you have any guesses?
I do not.
I'm going to ask you this from now on. Well, I won't tell you. You'll see. Don't go looking.
No, I'm not going to look. I was going to guess. But the thing is, too, I don't know. Oh, I guess that's the fun part, is I have no idea how the POVs are going to work, Mm-hmm. I don't know if everyone who got one in the first book will, who's still alive, will have one, in this one or not. So maybe, I'm not sure which POV it would be. I'm torn between Jon and Tyrion, but it could be, I don't know if Jon will have a POV in this book. Or does Daenerys? I feel like Daenerys has got to have one in this book, too. She's got a whole world just opened up.
True.
Daenerys. I'm gonna guess Daenerys.
Okay. All right. And who else after that?
Probably gotta check in on King's Landing. I wonder if Cersei gets a POV in this book. That'd be pretty rad. If not, then maybe Sansa.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we will. Because Tyrion should be in King's Landing or on his way by now as the Hand. So, maybe that's who we'll get. And that'll be our check-in, not Cersei. Maybe it'll be Tyrion as the Hand. I don't know. We'll see.
And I want to say hi to new patrons this week. We have Star, Mariah Fallon, Esther, Ian, and Anna Clay. So welcome to all of you guys. I am pretty sure I got the pronunciations of those right. I am startled. Did you see there was a thread a while back where somebody was like, I'm so glad that you got my name right. So many people get it wrong. And it was like Adam Bailey. It was like the most common name, and I was like genuinely shocked. And they were like, no, people will say it this way, and they spelled out a few phonetic like versions, and it was simple. And then all these people came up in comments and were like, oh yeah, people get my name wrong all the time. And it was like 95% like English names, and by English I mean from England, like extremely common in all kinds of literature that you're drilled with as a child names.
I'm so curious. Were they messing up the Adam or the Bailey?
I don't remember. That was not the actual name. That was like...
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It was like that kind of who makes a mistake with this, you know? But yeah, I have gotten a number of people who are just like... and, you know, I am 100% certain that I just butcher the names of plenty of other people, because there's a lot of different ethnicities here, and I don't know some of the like common things. There was somebody, and I believe that this is like a Thai last name, but their last name was Nguyen, but it's spelled like N-Y-U-G-E-N. And evidently, if you are an educated person, you know that that's how it's pronounced. I did not know that. And so I mispronounced it while I was recording something. I think I might have been recording with Krista. And she corrected me and was like, there was like a duh sort of vibe to it. And I was like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. But I think there were two people co-hosting on that with me. And the other person was like, yeah, you say it like that. Like they were all looking at me like, you fucking idiot. And I felt very bad for the Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Nguyen. Because they probably were sitting there like, yeah, Natasha, duh. I'm sorry. I'm a stupid, ugly American. What can I say?
We're the worst. We're the fucking worst. I had, for a long time, I was lucky enough working in hotels where I would just get to ask people, how do you pronounce your last name? And that's how I found out about that. But it's not something that comes up for me much anymore. And I never have to actually say anyone's name in my work. Everything is email. So I really don't have to be concerned with how to pronounce people's names. And it is such a relief, because it was just the worst every time someone would come to check in and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to butcher your name and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I also found that a lot of people would be happy to tell you how to pronounce it if you just,
Yeah, and like once somebody takes a specific like beat to be like, no, here's how you say it, I tend to remember it. That said, if you just introduce yourself, I do not remember that. Just being like, hey, my name's James, and I'm just immediately like, your name is foreign to me. I have never heard it before. But anyway, so hi to all you guys. Thank you again for becoming patrons. If you're interested in becoming a patron and listening to the Mistborn series that I'm covering with Miles, who some of you may know as Ghost Love Singer, who had used to be a writer for Tower of the Hand, but he's pretty much disowned Game of Thrones, so he is not on there as often anymore. You can become a patron at patreon.com/unspoiled. And also, me and Rashawn do a twice a month Unsober show where we have a cocktail and talk about whatever we feel like. And I'm kind of thinking that the next episode might be on old commercials, because we mentioned that the other night, and she and I don't disagree, but Rashawn asserted that would be a much better show if it were with video, because then you get to like, and yes, you are correct, it would be better, but I still think it'll be pretty fun. And I'm very interested to hear what like different commercials we all remember, because there's a 10-year gap between me and you, and then there's like a 10-year gap between us and some of the patrons more.
Some of my favorite commercials too are like very regionally specific and won't really translate, I think, though I could laugh for hours.
I have a couple of those also. So I definitely want to bring up Bob's Discount Furniture and things like this. So you guys will definitely hear about that if you are a $20 and up patron. And when earlier Rashawn said postcard, she was referring to the $10 tier, in which you get a postcard mailed to you that I design every month and have some words of wisdom on the back. Deep, deep, deep wisdom. And I write your name with lots of curly Q's and an exclamation point dotted with a star, and it's great.
You do. You do that.
So yeah, patreon.com/unspoiled. And I really feel like there was some other shit I was going to mention. Oh, next week. What are you doing over there?
I was getting my postcard because it just came. Likes appendices, dislikes humanity.
Oh, good. I realized after I sent them all, I've suddenly had that weird thing you get where you're like, did I specifically leave out just Rashawn? Did I forget somehow to send her postcard? I don't know why I had that in my head, but I was waiting to hear if you got it. So good. Good. But yeah, likes appendices, dislikes humanity is the last postcard that got sent out. But next week we are going to be taking a mental health break because we are overwhelmed, and I'm going to be doing my own little... Rashawn's taking a break. I am going to be doing a crowdcast, I think. I have not yet decided what the subject matter is going to be. There may not be a subject. I don't know. But I wanted to do something as a hangout, either Wednesday or Thursday night. By the time this comes out, I'm realizing it's going to be too late. But you will be able to find the crowdcast link. Yeah, those of you who came, thanks for joining me.
There you go.
But yeah, I really just, I feel like we all are kind of cracking. And it has felt like that started around March. But now it really feels like it's really starting. We're starting to see them cracks appear. So I just thought we could do something to blow off some steam. And I am thinking I'm going to have Jamie and Krista join me. And just hang out and have some drinks and shoot the shit and keep y'all company a couple hours. So if you are looking for if you miss the date of it, which I will be posting about it on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but you can go back and watch it and watch the recording. And I still think that will be fun. I won't necessarily post it as an episode because I don't know that it's going to go with any of my feeds. But it's something that you'll be able to find. So I'll also, post it afterwards. I'll try and remember to alert everybody.
Those are always fun. I hope everybody that came enjoyed themselves, and it's good to take a minute to just sort of disconnect, but not be disconnected from each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Versus the last Unsober we did, which was the one before, which was supposed to be about leaving the house, and turned into an anti-capitalist tirade that went on for 2 hours about taking back the means of production.
It really did.
It really did, you guys.
It was fun though, but we fucking meant that shit.
Whole chest.
It was, we're, like you said, we are all hitting a wall, and, it is manifesting in lots of different ways for different people. Yeah.
Anyway, patreon.com/unspoiled for access to more things like that. If you are interested. If you are not, I don't know why you're here. But... each their own.
But thanks for hanging out.
I always find it wild. People will listen and they'll be like, I don't agree with them politically, and I'm like, wow, word, because I can't keep listening to a podcast after people say some shit that I really don't disagree with, or that I really do disagree with, and I, that's a reflection on me. I own that. I'm fine.
I mean, I feel like if you just keep listening, kids, we'll get you. Just keep listening.
There have been a few people who have actually said that Unspoiled was the gateway drug to getting them to fucking become communists, practically. So, and I am proud of that. I take that. I will wear it as a badge of honor.
I'm pretty fucking proud of it, too, actually.
All right, comrades. We will see you in 2 weeks. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
Unspoiled Network podcast.